of the night when the stars align. There's a place you can go where the stories unwind. Slabs in the chair bringing news from the skies. All things DC, it's where the truth lies.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Thursday's The Watchtower, where we talk all things DC. Today's going to be a little bit of a laid-back episode. It's more of an open discussion. I've been away for the last few days and haven't had much time to really gather my thoughts on what's going on in the realm of everything. So it's a little more of an open discussion. I do have a few things that have popped up over the last 24 hours that I want to talk about. So we will talk about those things before we get into the open discussion, but let's get into it, see who's here as of right now, which I think there's just a couple of you in here. Right now, we got Hope for Life. What's going on now? He's talked about Monster Hunter Wilds. Has anybody here played that? And I believe I saw Trayvon in here earlier. I don't know if he's still here, but what's going on, everyone? Yeah, there he is. Trayvon is in here as well. All right. So let's get going. Let me pull this up. I hope you all had a good week. There wasn't much news, not like last week. Last week was chock full of DC news. But this bit of information, this is a bit of good news, possibly. This one here is coming from Variety. I don't know if you remember a few weeks ago, we talked about this a little bit. Warner Brothers and DC were being sued, or there was a lawsuit being pushed against them for the rights of distributing Superman in certain territories in certain countries, stating that it's copyright infringement on the Schuster family. And Warner Brothers and DC have moved to dismiss the Schuster's estate for the foreign copyright suit. And they are arguing that the courts have upheld a 1992 deal where Joe Shuster's sister assigned any and all Superman rights to DC with no exceptions, fully settling the matter. Now, we discussed also that back in 2012, 2013, this similar suit came up. Not the same, but a similar suit came up right before Man of Steel came out. And this is just something that this estate wants to continue doing because they want a piece of that pie. They know they see a Superman movie coming out. They know that there's going to be some money to be made. So they find any way possible to make a little bit of cash. But there are a lot of people out there who were trying to say when this suit came about, hey, this is going to be a big issue. This is going to be something that that's going to cause this movie to fail. And a lot of people are going to say, this movie isn't going to make enough money because of this, or it's going to fail because of this. Look, we knew that Warner Brothers wasn't going to just sit on their hands here. We knew that they were going to push to have it dismissed. They were going to do whatever they can to get this thrown out. And if worse comes to worse, if they feel like they can't win this, they will settle out of court in some way, I'm sure. But it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. We'll keep track of this. I am interested to see how this all plays out because, again, this is pretty big. I think it's like Canada, Australia, things like that. I don't remember what countries exactly, but there's different areas that it could affect, which could be not a whole lot of money. It's not like it's China. It's not like it's all of North America. But it's a decent chunk of money that could affect the box office if it can't get released there. And that's one of the options that may happen. If they feel like this suit is going to be pushed forward, they may just end up not releasing it there. That could be a problem. Or they could just say, you know what, we're going to take our chances. We're going to release it there. But then that money that they make there kind of just gets held in limbo until the suit is over. And they determine, okay, this money gets divvied up this way to the estate, to Warner Brothers, to this, to that. So it's a very interesting situation that's going on. So we'll see how it all plays out. Should be interesting. Some other people came in. Jay Kelly, what up? LG13, yo. Ron 6751, he says, hey, my biggest concern for the DCU is that they may sideline Batman for too long and most of their projects could become Elseworld. Yeah, that's a good one. I'm going to star that, and we'll come back to that. I'm going to pin that and come back to that. That's a good one. Lorenzo says, how it goes? And Trayvon says, pictured Warner Brothers DC smacking the snot out of the Joe Shuster estate while telling them to screw off. Pretty much, yeah, for sure. All right. Another thing I want to bring up here, like I said, there's a couple things I wanted to talk about that popped up here. And this one here. And the reason why I bring this up is because this is going to lead into my next thing here. Interesting enough, LG13 is in the chat. And I pulled this up because the other day he posted, I'm hoping you see the vision here. Alan Ritchson as Aquaman. Now, I personally have been calling for this for a while. I would absolutely love to see Alan Ritchson be Aquaman. I think this is absolutely the best choice for it because age doesn't necessarily matter for this role. I think it would be a little redemption arc for him after he played the role in Smallville, 20 some years ago, whatever it was. I think it would be great. I do. However, a lot of other people are like, hey, I think that maybe he should play Batman. And he actually answered that question. Now, give me a brief second here. I'm hoping that I can do this here because I want to share this. I can't share it. Anyways, I gotta figure this all out somehow. Anyways, Alan Ritchson actually talked about that. He was on one of those Wired finish the sentences thing. And he goes, you wouldn't even have to pay me to play Batman. And that's another casting wish that a lot of people want to see is him play Batman. Now, I'm on the Aquaman train, but I know a lot of people want him as Batman. But to me, it sounds like he's open to the idea of playing a superhero again. I mean, he's Reacher right now. Not sure how much longer that show is going to be able to go on. Amazon typically has their shows run for no more than like 4 or 5 seasons. So I'm guessing maybe 1 or 2 more seasons for that show. Again, if it's doing really, really well, it could go longer. He did play Hawk on that Titan show, but I bet you they could get him in the DC universe in some form or fashion. Is it going to be Batman? I don't know about that, but I could see him playing a role to the caliber of Aquaman. Will it be Aquaman? That's my hope, but I could see him being in a role in the caliber of Aquaman. But yeah, I can't get the audio to play for this. I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's because I'm on Safari and not Chrome with this. That could be it. But I think it's great. What do you guys think? I want to know what you guys have to say. Do you think he could play a role in DC, in the DCU, and what do you think he should play? I think Andre Oliveira goes, wait a minute. I remember now. Wasn't he Aquaman already? He was in Smallville. That is correct. He was. Absolutely. Lorenzo, I'm telling y'all, give him the long hair and hook and make him the 90s Aquaman. Honestly, you don't even need to give him the long hair. I think the short hair would be fine. You could do either version of Aquaman, whether it's the long hair with the hook or short hair. You could do either version of Aquaman, just not the 70s Super Friends version. We don't need that one. But you can do a couple different versions. I think he can pull it off. I really do. Let's see. What else do we got here? Trayvon says, I think the DCU Aquaman will be fully blonde and clean shaven to distance himself from the DCEU. Absolutely. I think they'll go more comic accurate with this Aquaman. If we do, and when we do get that, I think we will get Aquaman sooner rather than later for sure. Let's see. What else do we got here? Anybody else here? No, nobody else new here or saying anything about this? Lorenzo goes, him doing the Super Friends Aquaman would be hilarious. It would be kind of hilarious. It really would be. Derpy Seer says, my glorious King Slav. How's it going? Oh, man. All right. But those are just a couple things that popped up throughout the day that I wanted to bring up today and yesterday. I thought they were interesting. But I want to get to the main topic. This is just an open discussion about things that you're kind of concerned about when it comes to the DCU. For me, I have a concern. I'm going to hit the one that I pinned a little bit ago that I thought was really good. Um, Sam Dan Reviews goes, Alexander Skarsgård as Aquaman. I wouldn't hate that. I do like Skarsgård. I do like him. I like what Alexander and his brother, whatever his name is, I can't think right now. I like this. Actually, I like a lot of the Skarsgårds, even their father. I like, but anyway, I honestly say that talking about the concerns for the DCU, and let's put this up so if anybody joins, they know what we're talking about here. Let's go like this. What are your concerns for the DCU? Add. So for me, I would say my biggest concern is how slow everything is to building right now. And I think everything is taking too long. And it's crazy because there's people out there who are trying to say that they're rushing things. But I think things are just going too slowly. And I think that's going to hurt it because, everything was announced 2 years ago as the DCU is coming. And during that time frame, there's been a lot of waiting and anticipation and anxiety from a lot of fans. And that is, I think, really hurt a lot of things because in that time frame, you have that ability then to have the fandom splinter and have the people kind of go against each other. Well, this looks like crap, or this is going to be crap, or this is going to be bad, or that's going to be bad, or this is going to be great, or this is going to be awesome. And you have that time for it to splinter, and that's a problem right there. Number two, you also have that possibility of things then taking so much time to establish. For instance, what Ron 6751 says is taking too long to establish or have Batman sidelined. Superman comes out this year. We get Lanterns next year. We get Supergirl next year. But yes, there's going to be other characters thrown in there. You get things like Hawkgirl. You get things like Metamorpho. You get who else? I can't think right now. Mr. Terrific. You're getting these other characters sprinkled throughout these films and these projects, which are great. The same with Peacemaker. We're going to have other characters pop up through there. But let's not lie to ourselves here. While I'm excited and I love the idea of building this world out with all these different heroes and different characters, I want to see the big characters. I want to see the Batmans, the Wonder Womans, the Aquamans, the Flashes. I want to see all those characters as well. And it seems to me, while James Gunn, I trust that they have a plan. 100% trust they have a plan. It feels like it's too slow getting to them. And that's my concern with everything because from my standpoint, I can sit there and say, you know what? I'm going to trust the process and I'm willing to see how it goes and where it goes. But from a large general audience perspective, that's where I'm concerned. That's where I'm concerned because take my kids, for instance. My kids, they don't know who Mr. Terrific is unless they watch the Arrowverse. They don't know who Metamorpho is in any way, shape, or form. No pun intended. They don't know who he is, so they don't really care that he's going to be in the Superman movie until they see him. They may think he's cool then. The Peacemaker characters, whoever pops up in there, unless it's some big name, they're not necessarily going to know or care who it is. And that's kind of the whole idea is when you're trying to establish a fan base, you want to make sure you get those big names in there to solidify that fan base. And that's my worry, that they're taking too long to get those big names. So that's my big concern. But what are yours? That's what I want to hear. I want to hear what yours are. Let's see. What do you guys have to say? You guys are still talking about Alan Richardson. Derpy says, I don't want a beefy Batman, so Richardson is a no-go as Batman. Senware92. Thoughts on the rumor James Gunn is confirmed villain for the Batman 2? What? No. I mean, look, people are so caught up in this whole the Batman 2 stuff. It's going to come out. It's going to come when it comes. Just let it happen. Like, they've given Matt Reeves the freedom to make it and let him do what he needs to do. There are some things that came up in his life that people just need to understand and just let things be. And that's that. Like, some things came up. Matt had to handle them and go through them. And you just let it be. So if you are a fan waiting for the Batman 2, it's coming. It's coming. Critic Chris says, he looks more Aquaman to me. I prefer an unknown as Batman. Critic Chris says, never thought they'd do classic orange-green costume for Jason. Yeah, they did, though. They did. Hope for Life says, my concern is, when will we get Wonder Woman and the Justice League will form? Again, that's kind of like my concern here is, when will we get a Wonder Woman? Like, don't get me wrong, I was a fan of Gal Gadot. I liked what she did as Wonder Woman, but I don't think it would hurt the DCU to just cast a Wonder Woman. I don't think it would hurt to just cast a Flash. I don't think it would hurt to get them in movies or projects now. As long as it fit the story and fit the narrative of the story they're telling, of course. I'm not saying just throw them in to Peacemaker just to throw them in, or throw them into Lantern just to throw them in. It needs to make sense. It needs to fit the story, obviously. But I don't think that's a problem. Like, I think if you can make it work and make it fit, absolutely do it. There's some people who think that they're not doing it because they are more so afraid of the connection or the ill will that Ezra Miller's Flash brought, or Gal Gadot brought from her Wonder Woman, or things like that. And to me, I look at it and like, who cares? It's in the past. Just don't think about it. Don't, like, for us as fans, we can get past it. The audience will get past it relatively quickly. Like, that's the one thing that the naysayers will sit there and say, well, the fans are going to be confused that there's a new Superman on the screen. No, they're not going to be confused. They're not. You know why? Because you're going to see the blue suit with the yellow and red and blue crest, the blue suit, yellow and red. You know, like, they're going to see the iconic outfit, costume, and they're going to be like, that's Superman. Plain and simple. They're not going to care what the face is. They're going to see the costume and they're going to be like, that's Superman. Same thing goes with Wonder Woman. They're going to see a Wonder Woman costume. That's Wonder Woman. They're going to see the lightning bolt on the chest. That's the Flash. That's what the general audience is going to care about. Now, obviously, yes, we want good performances that'll enhance the experience. That's what people will care about then. But when it comes down to this quote-unquote idea of confusion, there's no confusion when it comes to seeing the iconic colors and costumes of these characters. We know what their costumes are. So when you go watch a movie, you see a Superman suit, you know it's Superman. You're not going to know or care who that face is, you know, right there. Like, that doesn't matter. You just see the cape, you see the suit, that's Superman. That's all that matters. The performances will then help enhance that experience of the movie. So when you get down to it, it doesn't matter what came before. I think they just need to worry about establishing this world a little bit faster than what they're doing. So, like you're saying, Hope for Life is with Justice League and when it'll form. I think they're talking about building to a Avengers type event. I think that's going to be near the end of this first 5-6 year run, which I'm okay with a Justice League not being completely formed until then. but I want to see those other members in some form or fashion doing their thing, running around, being heroes and things like that. That's what I want to see. So, Trayvon says, in my opinion, I'd rather take it slowly rather than introduce them all in the second movie. DCU. Yes. Well, I agree with that as well. I'm not saying throw them all in the first or second movie, but I'm also saying I don't want, how do I put this? I'm all for a Sergeant Rock, a Clayface, and a Swamp Thing, and Peacemaker, and things like that. I'm all for those projects. But I think they need to fast track or make priority movies or projects that have Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, the main players in the DCU. Now, whoever those main players are going to be, because it may not be Aquaman, it may not be Flash, it could be other players that James Gunn and Safran are considering main players. Obviously, the Trinity should be Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman should be at least the three main players. The cast around them can differ a little bit. You can have a Green Arrow replace a Aquaman. We're going to have lanterns now, which we didn't have before. You don't need to have a Barry Allen Flash. You can have a Wally West Flash, or you can even have a Jay Garrick Flash. Like, you could change things up a little bit and do some different things. But I think they need to prioritize making sure they get these characters in some sort of projects to introduce them into the DCU. And again, it doesn't need to be in the second project. It doesn't even need to be in the third project, but at least get them in there in some form or fashion. As of right now, all we're seeing is, like I said, Superman, Lanterns, and Supergirl for the most part. Everything else that's coming out besides those are lesser known characters, which, again, as I said, perfectly fine with. I'm happy with being a comic book fan, being a comic book reader, somebody who understands this, I'm great with. I'm concerned with the general audience. The more I talk to people, the more they're like, yeah, I'm pumped for Superman. I'm pumped for Supergirl, but what else is there after that? And that's kind of where it's at right now. And that's the concern. Jay Kelly says, I won't be concerned until a DCU project fails. Well, see, that's a great mentality for sure. And here's the thing. It's okay to have concerns. And I'm not saying that, it's wrong to not have concerns. It's okay to have concerns. When I was thinking about doing this as the topic of discussion today, I feared that somebody may come at me and say, well, Robert, you're so positive about the DCU all the time. Why would you bring up a topic like this? And the thing is look, yeah, I'm very positive about the DCU. You guys know that. I'm pumped for what's coming for Superman. I think James Gunn is the right man for the job, and I love what I see. But let's face facts here. There are definitely areas that when you step back and take a look, there's a little concern. There's a little areas that you're like, James, you could have done that a little bit better. Or, it'd be great to see Batman or understand what's going on with Batman or, things like that. Yeah, I trust that Superman's going to be great. I trust that Peacemaker Season 2 is going to be great. I trust Creature Commandos was great. I trust that those projects are going to be great. And there's a possibility that we may get a one that fails at some point in time. It's bound to happen. But I also am not delusional enough to sit there and think that everything is going perfectly. Because, I mean, in my opinion, it's not. I went there I wish it was going perfectly, but there's some concerns. And that's why I kind of wanted to bring it up, because we talk so positively about everything sometimes. And it's great, and I love it. But, sometimes I want to just hear what you guys have to say, like, hey, these are some of our concerns. And maybe, just maybe, possibly, James Gunn just happens to peruse my little channel and hears the concerns. Or maybe it starts a little conversation or debate on social media and it turns into something bigger and he sees the conversation on social media and feels inclined to address it. That's all. And the great thing is about this community that I've started on my channel specifically is we can all have a conversation and it doesn't get heated. And that's what I like about it. That's what I love about our community here is we can just have a conversation. So that's all. Excuse me, a little parched. Also, for those of you who watched last week, I hope you enjoyed having Stevie on from Superhero Cuts. He's a great guy. I do hope you guys check out his channel sometime. They're a lot of fun. Him and Jerry over at Superhero Cuts they're a lot of fun to watch. They get into debates sometimes, and it's really heated. It's pretty funny. Andre says, my concern is that they just do too much isolated projects and without crossover. So that was something that James Gunn sort of discussed a little bit, that he wants every project to sort of stand on its own with the ability to fit in with the larger universe. Now, Kevin Feige sort of tried to do the same thing. Specifically, like, take Iron Man 1, 2, and 3. More so Iron Man 1 and 2. If you look at Iron Man 1 and 2, those two movies back to back work out really well. But Iron Man 3, you kind of have to see Avengers to really understand what Tony's going through in Iron Man 3. When you start to get into the Captain America stuff, you got Captain America 1. Then when you get to the second one, that works. Civil War, though, you kind of have to have seen the other Avengers movies to understand what's going on. So Kevin Feige at one point in time was like, yeah, I want to do this where you don't have to see everything. It's not all connected. But then he kind of shifted and made it this one big universe for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It seems like James Gunn doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want the audience to have to do homework. And whether that's just in the beginning, so at the start for the first maybe handful of films, similar to what the MCU did for the first 5 films leading up to the Avengers, everything is pretty secluded, standalone. You don't have to do your homework. You don't have to watch one to catch the other. Maybe that's how it's going to work. I think that's fine. I just don't know how you get to a point where you continue doing that. Because once you establish a Justice League, that's where things start to get really difficult. Once you establish a team of heroes, and especially with DC, because once you have a Justice League established in DC, they pretty much stick together more often than not. And that's what's going to be difficult. Now, what I think is going to be interesting is, take Superman, for instance. They're establishing all these heroes are just throughout. So you're going to have these pockets where the heroes are going to come in and out of movies. So as long as, we'll take Guy Gardner, for instance. Guy Gardner pops up in Superman. If he pops up in Lanterns, is he going to mention events that happened in Superman? Or is he just going to ignore those events and not mention anything? And then does that mean, like, okay, so there's no homework that's needed? And that's kind of, that's the interesting thing. So we're going to have to see how that plays out as projects move forward and move along to really grasp how that's going to be built. Now, if you're talking about the Elseworld stuff, that's a different story. The one thing a lot of people don't get, and I don't know why they didn't grasp, like, I understood this, like right from the beginning, I understood this. He took over DC Studios, and it's a studio. It's a whole studio that, when they announced it, would be handling all DC properties. film, television, video games. So, yes, they're going to do Elseworlds. They're going to do animation. They're going to do video games. And while a lot of this stuff will be connected, they also have to do things that aren't connected. They have to do things that are going to grab the attention of toddlers, of kinder or elementary school kids, of middle school kids. They have to do those similar types of things, and they're not necessarily going to be connected to the grander DCU because they can't be, just because of the type of shows they're going to be. And eventually they'll build up. The kids will grow up and they'll fall into the DCU as long as it's still around at the time. That's just a good way to build a studio, to build out and create product and get your your audience hooked at a young age. That's the way to do it. So people who are like freaking out, for instance, about the Starfire show, like, oh geez, the Starfire show, I'm beginning to think that nothing's going to be connected. Well, no, that's like, people need to chill out. Like, this is a studio that has to attract all different audiences and ages, and just like Marvel, they have to attract toddlers with their little Spidey and Friends show, and then they have their Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man show, and then they have their video game section, and then they attract as much audience as they can. DC has to do the same thing. Now, I've said I think they need to focus more so, at least in the beginning, on the DCU. So I am a little shocked that in the beginning they're spreading their wings so much, but it makes sense that they're doing it. It's not like it's something that they shouldn't be doing, because it should be. I just think that they should be more focused on the DCU at the start. Sam Dan Review says they should rework the Paradise Lost and do Wonder Woman live action TV show. That would be cool. I have a weird sense, or not sense, but like a weird thing. I don't think the Trinity should have TV shows. I don't think that Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman should necessarily have TV shows. I think they should have their own films. I said years ago when the Arrowverse was going on, I said this way back then, that I think what they should have done is the big Justice League members, your Batmans, your Supermans, your Wonder Womans, and then they could fill in whatever big characters they wanted there. They should be the catalyst, the foundation in film. But then you have characters, because like I said, this is while the Arrowverse was going on. So you have characters like Arrow, Flash, and whatever characters you want within that, that little section there, Supergirl, and you give them the TV shows. That way you always have 6 months running at a time. 6 months a year, you just have constant content running weekly of DC content. And then throughout the year, you're getting 3-4 movies a year, plus that's 6 months of DC content. And then one of those movies every year could be a big crossover event, or maybe every couple years could be a big crossover event. But that would be kind of the idea, is you have those TV shows running throughout the year, kind of giving you the big ongoing story of these other lower heroes, building the world out, establishing what the DC universe is. But then your big heroes are the ones that are the foundation, really setting the real tone and the real threats in the world. I always thought that would be a cool idea if done right. And obviously not on CW, because let's face it, CW, that's a the budget isn't, cut out for that. But with something like HBO or Max, you can have the budget now to do something like that, and not necessarily 6 months at a time, like I was saying, but you get a 8 to 12 episode or 8 to 10 episode show twice a year, plus you get 2 or 3 movies a year. Now you're starting to see how that could actually form and be a workable scenario. I think that's kind of cool. Hydra or Hydrasylum. There we go. Hydrasylum Comics. Sorry, I'm terrible with names. I can't read. My biggest concern is course correcting too much if something isn't a hit. I'm prepared for a little course correction, but even being a fan of the DCEU, I can admit they tried to do that too much. Here's the thing. This is a very, very valid concern, but I don't see the DCEU. Their course correct was drastic. It was a drastic course correct that was unneeded. I was a DCEU fan myself. I was a big fan of Man of Steel, a fan of Batman vs Superman. I liked the Suicide Squad to a point. I loved Wonder Woman. Like those first four films, was it 4 films? Something like that. I really enjoyed. Like if you were to ask me, like I would sit there and say, yeah, I want to see a continuation of those. But when they made their course correct after Justice League, we'll say, because Justice League, well, I wouldn't say was their course correct, but once they made their course correct, that's when it was just such a drastic course correction. I wouldn't even say Shazam was a course correction because that movie was good. The first Shazam was a good movie. It was exactly what it needed to be. But where you started to see is things like Birds of Prey, the Wonder Woman 84, things like that. You started to see where they wanted to try and do the dark and gritty with the comedic elements of Marvel, and it just wasn't working. And it was just too much. You take a look at the DCU now. Let's say Superman, Supergirl, and Lanterns fails. Let's just say that. There's no course correcting. It's done. Kaput. It's done. If Superman's successful, Lanterns fails, and Lanterns or Supergirl fails, one of them fails, I don't think there's any course correcting. I think it's just, we'll keep pushing forward. That didn't work. We just won't continue it. And I think that's kind of how you need to look at it right now. I think they're more in this mode of like, we have a plan. We're going to stick to it. We're going to push through. And we have faith. We have faith in our creative minds, in our directors, in our writers, in our filmmakers, in our artists that we brought in here. We have faith in all of them. And if it doesn't work, then we may have to adjust something that isn't even in production or coming out yet, or that we've announced yet. But for the most part, we're going to stay status quo. Like we're just going to push forward. Now, then again, if Superman is a massive failure, if Supergirl is a massive failure, if one of them becomes a huge, like an absolute complete disaster of a failure, that could see a course correction. But I think, when it comes down to it, I don't see them making a massive course correction if one of them struggles. I think the only time that you're going to see any kind of movement is if there's a catastrophe. And I think a catastrophe is really out of the next 4 projects, which includes Peacemaker, Superman, Lanterns, and Supergirl. If more than half of them, so 3 of them absolutely bomb and are complete failures, I think that we're just in for a complete halt of the DCU. I do. I don't think they're going to say we're course correcting again. I just think it's done. That's what I think. Oh boy. Senware92 says, Jeff Snyder just said on the hot mic that Robert Pattinson has read the full script for the Batman, but Reeves hasn't reported full script to James Gunn or Peter Safran, and he isn't obliged. I whatever. I mean, first off, like, it's Jeff Snyder. So what, does he have Robert Pattinson's number? Does he talk? No, he doesn't. Who cares? I mean, I don't know what Matt Reeves' deal is. None of us know. Jeff Snyder doesn't know what Matt Reeves' deal is with Warner Brothers and DC Studios. If he has to, like, does James Gunn have to sign off on the script before it shoots? Does David Zaslav, like, who signs off on it? I don't know. So, it is what it is. Like, I'm so sick of Jeff Snyder. I'm sorry, Senware. I'm just sick of Snyder. I really am. Sam Dan says, I think Gunn is holding out Aquaman, Flash, Shazam, and Wonder Woman because they just had movies. It's possible. That's what some people think. I just think they can just push forward and people would be fine with it. Critic Chris says Justice League Unlimited is a good start for them to these characters, known and unknown, are seen on that show than any other. Yes. Trayvon says, from Tom Welling and Brandon Routh to Henry Cavill and Tyler Hoechlin, all of whom played Superman in my lifetime, no confusion whatsoever. Sam Dan says they should do live action Flash like Lanterns with Barry Allen and Wally West. I agree. 100% agree. I would love to see that. I think that would be great. Personally, I would love to see, I think it would be cool to see a Barry Allen, Wally West film or show. But again, I don't want to say anything because this could be how Lanterns goes, but where Barry Allen sort of like disappears at the end, but we don't know why. It's a mystery. Like, he just disappears. But the main villain being the Reverse Flash, of course, but he disappears at the end, and Wally, who's still relatively new, has to don the Flash costume and carry on the moniker, and is unsure of himself and is, wavering in his abilities. And I think that would be a cool little arc for the Flash, or for Wally and for the Flash. A good bit. It'd be, not a confident superhero and is right. I think that would be a lot of fun. Hydra Asylum Comics says you can be pumped and still have concerns, though. Correct. Trayvon says, I honestly think that a whole lot more will be revealed about the DCU after Superman. They may have a whole lot of projects already in the pipeline. I agree. I do agree. But even then, I kind of feel like, and we've said this before, I think it's more of a wait and see. Like, let's wait and see how good Superman does before we announce this or do this. I think that's kind of what they're doing. But it's kind of interesting why greenlight and announce Clayface and Sergeant Rock and some of these projects that, granted, they're low budget movies. Like, a lot of these are probably going to cost $40 to $50 million, which is low budget. So that makes sense. But to me, it's kind of like, that's not what's going to excite your general audience. It excites me. It'll excite you. But the general audience isn't going to get excited behind it. They're going to get excited of the Wonder Woman. They're going to get excited about the Shazams or the Flashes or the Batmans. That's my area. And honestly, a Nightwing movie would excite fans. A Titans movie would 100% excite fans. A Nightwing, you could do a Nightwing movie for less than $100 million. Like, you could. I've been saying that for such a long time, that you could do something in the same vein as Daredevil, where it's just very street level for a Nightwing. Very street level. You could even do that for a Batman. Like, that's a thing. You could do things like that. I don't know. That's just my opinion. Hydra Asylum Comics says, I see the thumbnails now. Slav backpedals, thinks DCU is doomed. If anybody really cared about my opinion, then I could see it. But Hope for Life goes, I didn't know your name was Robert, Slav. Yes, it is Robert. It slipped up there. Sorry about that. Senware. Slav, have you watched Penguin? Review? I'm ashamed to say I still haven't watched Penguin. I did watch the first 2 episodes of Daredevil, though. Um, I got a chance to watch those between yesterday and today, after I got back from my trip. But no, I have not watched Penguin. I actually do wanna watch it. I just again, my enjoyment of the Batman just did not put my priority for the Penguin very high. So I am going to get to it at some point. I will. Trayvon Purnell, remember, we have Comic Cons after Superman. We do, but there's rumor that they're not planning on going to San Diego Comic Con. So maybe at New York Comic Con. They were at New York Comic Con last year. That's where they did a lot of discussions about Creature Commandos. So they may go to New York Comic Con this year again. Hope for Life, you got to get superhero cuts back here, and you got to try getting out to Truth and Anarchy and Botox. Real Anarchy and Botox. Who's Botox? I don't know who Botox is. Real Anarchy, I do want to get him on. I was going to reach out to him for this week to see if he would be able to go this week, but with me being out of town and everything, I was just like, maybe not this week. Truth, I could try and get him on for sure. I've talked to him. I used to talk to him on my old channel as well, so I'm sure I could get him on, no problem. I don't know who Botox is. Who's Botox? I don't know who Botox is. Botox. Botox. Oh, there you go. Botox, I mean. I've actually tried. I reached out to him during one of his live streams and was like, hey, man, I'd love to have you on my show. And then he was like, message me. And I've messaged him 2 times now, and I've not heard anything back. I know he's about to go on his honeymoon too, so he'll be gone for a while from doing that. He's way bigger than I am on YouTube, so the chance of getting Botox is pretty slim unless people start bombarding him like, you need to go on Slav, or you need to have Slav come on your show, or whatever it is. Unless that happens, it'll probably never happen. Sam Dan says Jamie Dornan should play Batman. That would, I guess. What was the last thing I saw him in? Jamie Dornan. What was the last thing I saw him in? Maybe. Can you give me his films? 50 Shades? Is that the last thing I saw? There's no way that's the last thing I saw him in. He's got to have been in something else. I don't know. That's crazy. I can't think of anything else I've seen him in. That's the last thing he was in is 50 Shades? Really? No, he was in The Tourist. Okay. Tourist. Heart of Stone. He was in that Robin Hood movie, that terrible Robin Hood movie with Taron Egerton. Yeah, anyways, okay. Sorry, I kind of just went off on a tangent. I should have had it sharing for you guys. Sorry. Trayvon says the Batman Part 2 and Constantine 2 are the first DCU horror movies. Bank on it. Critic Chris says, I thought of Winter Soldier as a way for human metahuman threats for the JL and DCU, such as LED led the Luthor as behind the scenes while keeping his image as a businessman. I'm not following Critic. I'm sorry. Trayvon says, ew, not Christian Grey as Batman. I'm guessing it was probably the Robin Hood movie I last saw him in, but I don't remember what I last saw him in. Like, he's just not that memorable of an actor for me. Hydra Silent Comics says, off topic, but I see you're super close to 2,000 subs. I was watching you right before 1,000. I think. Congrats, and bro, you nailed the name first try, boss. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I'm very close to 2,000. I think I'm like 70 away, something like that, to 2,000. So I'm pushing. I was hoping to get there before the end of February, but it is what it is. I'm getting there. Thank you. Andre says, I would love a Green Arrow and Black Canary movie. I would also. I think that would be killer. Off the cover, what up, Slav? Just popping in. How's it going? I don't know if you're still around, but thanks for stopping by. Hydra Silent Comics. It's Jay Burns working on stuff, so I'm signed into account on this account, by the way. Sorry for the confusion. Oh, okay. What's up, Jay? Critic Chris, I'd consider lesser known characters in TV shows like Creature Commanders, perhaps maybe transition them to live action later. Yes, me too. Ron 6751. I'm thinking a Hawkman, Hawkgirl epic love story can be made into a movie. Probably if you establish the characters well enough. Isabel Merced, I want to see her. Look, the only movie that I've seen her do a lead in was the Dora the Explorer movie. I have kids, okay, guys. So that isn't a great example for me to see a lead or to see her lead a movie. So I want to see her in Superman. I want to see her build on the character, and then I'd like to see who they get cast as Hawkman, or to kind of see if they can build a relationship there. And then I want to see the backstory that they give the two characters. Because obviously I don't see them going the Jon Stewart and Hawkgirl relationship, because I just can't see Aaron Pierre and Isabel Merced together. I mean, they're not that much different. What is her age? Isabel Merced. She's 23, and Aaron Pierre's 30. So 7-year difference, but still kind of weird. I don't know. I think he looks a lot older, so it might be a little weird. I don't know. Anyway, Trayvon Smith, have you heard that Superman test screening now is doing well? All right, these test screenings, I figured somebody would bring them up at some point. I talked about it in a video. People need to chill out with these test screening things. Like, test screenings happen. Test screenings can be good. Test screenings can be bad. Sometimes they're both. Sometimes some people love them. Sometimes some people hate them. It is what it is. We're 4 months away from the movie. And not only that, do you really trust Jeff Snyder? Do you trust John Campea? First off, John Campea isn't a scooper. John Campea is just a pop culture commentator. So you can believe him if you want. You don't need to believe him. Jeff Snyder is a scooper. He's not even a real reporter. He's a scooper. He doesn't get invited to things. He doesn't get exclusives from the actual sources from studios and things like that, because of the nature of the business that he's in. And there's a reason for that. Okay? And because of that, can you really sit there and trust everything he says? And then you have the whole thing where he flip-flopped. One day he says, I have a source that tells me they're great. The next day he goes, well, I have another source that tells me they're bad. You have him flip-flopping. Then you have other people trying to come out and say, hey, it's good. The thing about hearing about test screenings, hearing about scoops, and this is why I always say this, is if you're somebody that loves to listen to scoopers and listen to scoops, more power to you. More power to you. I will never take it away from you. Believe what you want to believe. But people listen to scoops because it gets them excited, and it fills them either with joy or anger, or gives them ammunition to go after somebody, whatever it is. That's all scoops really do. Can they be accurate sometimes? Yes. I know a couple people who have been accurate with scoops. I've been fed information that have been accurate before. I know that things can be accurate at times. But does that mean that it's always right? No. Do I care if this information is right about a test screening 4 months before the movie's out? No, I don't care, because I know I trust James Gunn. He hasn't let me down out of his last 5 projects. Granted, I Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, I think, is his weakest film out of the last 5 projects he's made. But it's still not a bad movie. I just think it's his weakest movie. So I have no fear that he's going to give us a solid to great movie. So I'm not worried about it. So that's all I had to say. So now people are saying that the test screenings are great. It is what it is. I'm sick of the scoop game. Like I can't stand it. You guys may get sick of me saying this all the time. I can't stand the scoop game. I can't stand it. I can't. Sam Dan reviews goes, I don't want Barry Allen missing. He's my favorite character, and he hasn't been done justice. You're right, and I get that. But my thought has always been, I want to see Wally West done justice, and you can have, if he goes missing, obviously us fans of comics and the Flash know that he's lost, probably in the Speed Force somewhere or in a Flashpoint or something. But then he comes back, and you bring him back in, and then he can be back, and then you have 2 Flashes, and that'd be fun. So that's all I'm saying. Because if you want to have 2 Flashes, you have a Flash that's already established, you want to have a story of, excuse me, like a coming of age story, and without a mentor, I think that would be the best way to do it. That's all I'm saying. So you would eventually get Barry Allen. It just wouldn't be immediately. Sorry, Sam. Trayvon Smith says, and people have said that Jeff Snyder's Superman test screening that was doing bad was a lie. It probably was, but again, it may not have been. Who knows? Nor do I care. I'm sorry, guys. When it comes to scoops, I fell into the scoop hype during the Snyder hype, like movement stuff, and when I fell into it, that's when I started to realize, like, this is ridiculous. And that's when I learned what it's really all about. And I feel bad. I feel bad for people who really buy into it. I do. I really feel bad for people who buy into it. Sam Dan really wants a Green Arrow movie. He says Harry Goodwin's as Green Arrow. I could see it. Hydra Asylum Comics says years ago we were supposed to get a Green Arrow Supermax movie. We were supposed to get that. We were. What did that get turned into? That did get turned into something, though. I don't remember what it was. It did get turned into something. And Trayvon goes, not to mention Snyder is a snivering rat. Very true. He says, only because James Gunn publicly calls out Snyder's horse crap. It's true. And if you notice something, honestly, if you sit back and notice something, James Gunn called out Grace Randolph. What was it? That one, maybe 2 times. Since then, he's never called out Grace Randolph for anything because she's never said anything wrong or negative or has scooped or revealed anything negatively or even positively, really, about Gunn, that has been wrong. So Gunn hasn't had to say anything bad about her. But Jeff Snyder gets mad, scoops stupid crap, then he talks shit about not being able to go to press events, not being invited, sits there and says, oh, these reporters won't ask the hard questions. Well, no shit. No shit that you don't get invited to things because you're being a complete dickhead. Like, sorry for all this swearing, but it's just ridiculous. Sam Dan says Samara Weaving is Black Canary. I could see that. Has she been in any kind of action film? I know she was in that horror film. What was that horror film called? Or whatever it was. What was that? Ready or Not. She was in Scream 6 too. She was in Guns Akimbo. Snake Eyes. What'd she do in Snake? I didn't watch Snake Eyes. I heard it was terrible. I don't know. Trayvon says, fun fact, me and Dora the Explorer share the same birthday, August 14th. That's fun. Weird fact. Don't know why you know that. But good for you. Oh, man. All right. Well, I can't believe it's been an hour already. That's wild. Used elements of Green Arrow, Supermax, and Arrow season 7. I didn't know that. Isn't that the one where Cody Rhodes was in that season? Is that the season where Cody Rhodes was in it? Maybe not. There was a season where Cody Rhodes was in a prison with him and he had a fight with him. Hydrosilum, I'm going to be hateful and spread bullshit. Why can't I come to the screening? You're talking there. Oh, man, I'm at the end. Weird. All right, guys. Yeah, this is a good show. We had some good discussions here. I liked it. Kind of threw this show together pretty quickly here. It's all right. Next week, next Monday, I'll be back with a normal show. Normal Slavs Free Talk podcast. So we'll talk about all the news that's going around in the pulp culture world. Maybe talk a little Daredevil. I don't know if you guys checked out the first 2 episodes of Daredevil. We'll definitely talk about that. As well as any other news that pops up over the next few days. Yeah. I don't know what else is going on. What else? Anything else going on this weekend? I don't think so. Yeah, I am very close, like I said, to 2K subscribers, so share it around. If you're not subscribed, hit subscribe now. Help me get to 2K subscribers. That'd be great. You can find me on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts as well. So if you can't make the live shows, you can listen to me on your drive to and from work or just around town, wherever you want to go. But yeah, I'm going to get out of here, guys. It was great. Thank you for putting up with my rant today. Thanks for all the questions and the comments. That's great. Love talking with you guys. With all that said, I will check you all out on Monday. Take it easy, guys.